We're starting up at 7 o'clock. I need you to let me know if you can hear me okay. Welcome to Ask the Plasterer, by the way. Welcome to tier 5, is it now? Aha. Cheers, Dixie. You've got to change that name, mate. Hi, Mike. Cool, cool. I don't know how things are going to go tonight. I felt like doing it about as much as you probably do. Yeah, I haven't got over the new year yet. Going to bed far too late still. Not getting up early enough. My work's only just starting to pick up again. And sadly some of that is outside jobs, so which I thought I'd given up doing, but apparently not. Yeah, Dixie, to prevent injuries, shoulders and stuff, mate, give up plastering. That's all I can say. It's just about being careful. I mean, I popped years ago now in you can't see it on there, can you? In this arm, I've got Popeye muscle, where I basically ripped the top tendon off in my arm, and that was, God, that's about at least 10 years ago now, probably longer. I was holding two of the, what was then a new size bag of the old plaster finish, and I tried chucking it into the back of my van, and as I threw it, I got this massive pain in my shoulder, which went pretty quickly. And then when I looked at my bicep, I'd realised it had kind of like gone up into a tight ball, and I thought, oh, that's a bit weird. And then when I checked it out with the doc, it turned out that I'd ripped it off from the top. He said it's an operation that you don't need if it rips from the top, only from the bottom. But it was, yeah, it hasn't affected me much since then, but that's the only damage I've ever really badly done to myself. And at the minute, I've got some kind of trapped nerve in my left hand, giving me it's an ulnar nerve or something gets trapped, so your two little fingers go numb on the side of your hand. You can still work with it, but you do lose some grip strength in that. But no, Dixie, keeping the you just got to be careful, mate. Just got to be careful not to overdo anything in the weight department or you're balancing anything dangerous. Well, I was working out at the gym about 9 months ago. I think I put on about a stone. And yeah, it's not good at all, mate. Not good at all. I need to get back there. The missus has put me on a diet. I think I've just finished polishing off some chicken and cabbage for me dinner. After stuffing my face all Christmas, it's not great. It's not great. Lincoln, stilts or hop up, mate. Stilts every time. I've had a pair of Dura stilts now for as long as I can remember. And when it comes to hitting ceilings, mate, you can't beat a pair of stilts. If anything happened to those ones, I'd have to get some next day delivery as quick as I could, because once you've got the hang of stilts, you probably wouldn't never go back to using anything else. Hop ups I only use if I want to reach slightly up a wall that I'm doing to get to the top of it. But yeah, definitely stilts 100%. I mean, it cost a few quid, but the ones I've had, I've only ever bought one pair. I mean, I've had a couple of sets of new straps for them, but other than that, mate, they've lasted really. I could probably do with a new pair, to be honest with you. I'm too tight. Oh dear. But yeah, I don't know how busy it is or isn't going to be tonight, guys. Just like getting over Christmas. I was really in the what's the word? I was in the stream of it before Christmas, like being busy, lots to chat about. Now I'm just getting over Christmas and the New Year. The fact we seem to be going into some other lockdown at midnight tonight means apparently a lot of guys are out there panic buying plaster again, which is such a pain in the arse, if I'm honest, because it just means if you go there to try and get any, it's gone. some guy on the plastering forum that I look at in on Facebook that I'm a member of. Some guy in there, he's gone out and bought a load and he's flogging it at £15 a bag before midnight tonight, and after that it's going up. Needless to say, he's getting a lot of stick from the other plasterers on the forum, but yeah, so out of order, man. So out of order. But my first jobs are going to be sand and cement anyway, so but I'm hoping that I can still get hold of some of that. Dear me, yeah, not good at all. Not good at all. I'm going to keep tonight. Well, unless things pick up, I'll probably just stick on here for I don't know, half an hour. We'll play it by ear. Or if it don't get a bit busier, about the next 5 minutes. What you guys been up to? Are you working? Are you? I'm never quite sure which of you is like doing DIY or which of you are like fairly new plasterers. I know some of the guys have been plastering for donkeys. How do you deal with small narrow areas such as between a door frame and walls? 2.5. Yeah, Eddie, plastering those little thin strips when you've got a doorway that's sort of just coming up to the butting wall, and you've got about 2-inch strip. The best thing is to have some filling knives of varying sizes. I bought so many different sizes in the past, but I get chucked in my van, and generally turns to be the one that I want to use for a little gap that I find. It's either that little bit too big and I can't get it in there, or a bit too small, which does the job, but it's so twiddly. If you can get a set of filling knives that go from, well, probably ½ inch upwards in their thickness for getting down those and into those thin strips, then that's your best bet. Obviously, you can't get any other kind of trowel in there. Small tools normally too small on one end or the other. But yeah, what is your hours? My hours, Dave. Yeah, I start at 8 o'clock normally, and if I've got the job well planned out, I will go home at 4. But 9 times out of 10, I end up working until 5 or later, even though I started at 8. But I give in a fixed price for the job, so 9 times out of 10, that just means I can bash it out quicker rather than go back for another day. But if it's going to kick into another day anyway, then I won't kill myself on the first day in a job, and I'll just plan it out over those few days. But always start at 8 o'clock because you just get more done earlier in the morning. At the moment, after this break, I'm struggling to get up at 10, let alone be at a job at 8, especially if it's miles away. Man, it's crazy. Yeah, I stuck some slightly, not new videos, but different videos up on the side there. Can you do a video? Do a video of filling in little thin gaps? Yeah, I suppose so. Another guy's asked me to do a video where you're plastering 2 wet walls that are meeting, and how and when to hit that angle, like I'm doing on that top video there at the minute. It's basically a case of just butting the 2 up, and I don't tend to mess about with an angle trowel in those internal angles of 2 wet walls meeting each other until I'm on the putting water on it stage. If you do it, you can do it sooner, but you just start digging grooves and stuff in the outside of the angle with your internal trowel if you're not careful. Paul, hi Paul. Done any Venetian plaster? No, I haven't, mate, if I'm honest with you. There are some fancy kind of plasterings you can do out there, the Venetian stuff, marbling, all kinds of gear. I think for me personally, you get so wrapped up in earning money just doing solid work that nothing particularly fancy. You can maybe specialise in something like that if you want to. The way of it as another string to your bow, but it's taking the time out to actually do it, and practicing something like that. You don't really want to practice it in the customer's house in case it all goes pear-shaped, and yeah, that wouldn't be so good. So again, like for me, it'd be having the time to try the Venetian plastering out, and seeing if I was any good at it. One thing I have seen recently that guys seem to be doing is this, I don't know why, because it's not trendy at the moment, making a beam that looks like a yellow like wooden beam on top of plasterboard, but what they're doing is they're covering it in the gear you stick your plasterboards with, and the plasterboard adhesive, yeah, and then they're kind of like, as it's drying, they're dragging a wire brush across it and making like random patterns in it, which I thought would look crap, but if you look any of them up, they look, some of them look really good. It's really hard to tell that they're not wood. But again, that's probably something that needs practice, and I wouldn't do that for the first time in a customer's house that says, "Oh, can you make my steel beam look like it's made of wood," rather than just plastering it smooth. But my R1 used my Mediflex for the first and second coat and polished brilliant trowel. Mediflex. I've not used the Mediflex trowel, Mike. I'm guessing that's somewhere in between the Ultraflex ones and your more solid Marshalltown. Yeah, if you've got something medium, I mean the really flexible trowels are really only for like troweling up and polishing and whatever. You'd never lay on with one of those, but the Medi one obviously sounds like something in between, where you just got that medium flexibility. Only place you've got to be careful with flexibility is making sure that you don't get any dips and stuff when you're skimming, because it's so hard. Like if you tried to lay on with a really flexible trowel, you'd get terrible dips in your plaster because there's no rigidity in it at all, and which is great for troweling up but not for laying on. What's your video when you plastered 2 walls plus a chimney breast? Oh, that's the one, I think that's on the left hand side of me, which can you see it? No, sorry, this side, yeah, over here. That middle one, that's the one where I'm using a speed skim. The whole process is speeded up, but I'm hitting, God, yeah, I'm hitting quite a lot of walls there, and the chimney breast, and another wall, or starting on the other wall, on the external wall where the window is. That was, if I didn't have the speed skim eddy for doing that one, then, oh no, sorry, it's not the middle one, it's the top video. If I didn't have the speed skim for that, there's no way I could have put that much gear on and got it all like troweled up, because it's with the speed skim, you're flattening it out pretty quick, like that bit around the door in that top video. I lay that on, and then I hit it straight away with the speed skim, and then move round, lay the next one on, speed skim on that, and my second coat I'm using what I've got left over watered down in the bucket, which will go off a lot faster than the first lot, but most of the time I was taught to thin down what you've got left to use for your second coat, because it's going on tight anyway. As soon as you start mixing up a fresh second coat, you've got a longer going off time of the second coat. So the first one's going off or nearly gone off, and you're putting another one on top of that. And I don't like spending that much time knocking jobs out when it comes to skimming, but you do need to be quick with the second lot. And I have livened up what's left more than once. If it starts to thicken up again, but I need a little bit more, I shall whack a bit of water in it. I mean, obviously it'll get to a stage where you can't do that because it's gone too hard, but yeah, I will always do that. Yeah, I never mix up a second fresh one. Again, that top video, which is the one you're talking about, all that is just, yeah, I knocked up 2 bags. That managed to cover 2 bags. I normally wouldn't knock up 2 bags unless it was just a big flat wall or a few flat walls, because once you start messing about with chimney breasts, that does slow you down, messing about with your angles and stuff. But in that, yeah, it's the one coat from the 2 bags, watering it down for the second coat tight, let's say taking the speed skim over it after the first one, and then just hitting back over it with the water sprayed on. Probably a good idea to hit your angles with a brush to sort that out, to sort those out. Dixie. Oh, sorry, sorry, Dixie. I don't know what you've missed, mate. Oh, battery died. Oh, okay, mate. Because my computer's been going, oh, something's not quite right, so I didn't know how well this broadcast was going to come across, whether it was going to keep cutting out, or whether or not you're seeing me in exactly real time, or whether there's any kind of time delay. But it seems okay. What else we got there? Yeah, the bottom video I've got showing there, that's my plastering school part 1. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that one. That's basically using the old plastering sand and lime mix, which doesn't go off at all. Really, it takes all day for practicing plastering. It's absolutely brilliant. When it does go off, you can just knock it back off the wall. That wall I've got behind me that I'm using it on now. Dixie, how many coats of PVA? Probably they teach you 2. Mostly, Dixie, I only use 1 coat of PVA. I think you already know that I tend to use it neat. I only water it down a bit. I buy the cheapest PVA that B&Q do. It's about a tenner for a gallon. Put a teeny bit of water in it if it's really thick, but generally that one's not particularly thick anyway. And I just do 1 coat. Once that's gone off, you don't have any issues. I've said before, there's a guy I worked for, and he PVA'd all the walls for me because I was going to do it on day work for him. And I just went in there, stuck my beads on, and started skimming. And we went through 7 rooms. It was like a detached bungalow, and yeah, absolutely fine. 1 decent coat rather than putting on thin coats. So yeah, that's my recommendation. I mean, in college, yeah, they will teach you by the book. When I was at college, it was skimming was a 3-coat affair. You put the first coat on with a steel trowel, and the second coat on with a wooden trowel, because it had no flexibility, so it kept it nice and flat. Or then you might sponge it as well, and then you go over it again with a steel trowel. And but on building sites, they said they hadn't got time for that. They needed a good finish quickly, otherwise they didn't keep you on. Mind you, that was back in the 80s and 90s and whenever, but it's similar now. They want a nice flat finish, as do most of your customers, and they don't care how you get to that flat finish. They don't care if you put 2 coats on or 1 coat. If it's flat and smooth, they can decorate and it looks lovely. That's where it's at if you want to make any money and not just make the plasterers helped British gypsum a bit richer by putting on 2 coats, fresh coats on each job that you do. As I said, if I was flogging plasterer for a living, I'd say, yeah, you should put 3 coats on, because that way you'll use more plaster and you'll buy more plaster. So, but yeah. How much do you put on at once? The most I put on, Dave, is oh sorry, Dave, I missed something for you. Stilts. The stilts I bought that I've had since whenever are Dura stilts. They're from America. If you Google those, I've no idea how much they would cost now, but they were expensive then, but they're worth looking up. They've lasted me for donkeys. Sorry, Dave, back to you. How much do you put on at once? The biggest mix I would do is 2 bags of multi finish. Got to be careful if you're using thistle, because sometimes that will go off quicker, though I've known it to go off slower. Things can really vary in the world of plaster going off. Like within 20 minutes. The only reason the multi-finish would normally go off too quick, Mike, is if it's got damp somewhere in the bag, or if the bag's been already opened and moisture's got into it. So sell by date wise, you can use a bag of finish months and months after it's gone past the sell by that's on it, and shouldn't be a problem at all. It's never caused me a problem. I've never checked a sell by date on bags of plaster. But yeah, 20 minutes. I mean, your working time, if you're knocking it up too thick in the first place, you might reduce the working. You could reduce the working time to about 20 minutes, and depending on how hot the weather is or the room is that you're working in, we'll send it off quicker for sure. But yeah, that's my advice, Mike, is just to make sure the plaster is nice and fresh. You're not mixing it up too thick, and yeah, and then just get it on the wall as quick as you can, mate. Oh, sorry, John. Hi. What's the best trowel, stainless steel or carbon? I've used to. Well, I used to use not the Marshalltown that wasn't stainless. They did get a bit rusty, but if you keep them clean, and they wore down quicker, so you could wear in a non-stainless steel trowel a lot quicker than you could a stainless one. I stick to stainless steel trowels now. I wouldn't. Yeah, not that keen on carbon. I had a couple of jobs where I've hacked off the old plaster and plastered over the old hard wall. Only trouble when applying the plaster, it dries really quick. So you're leaving the old hardwall there. Are you putting anything on it, Dixie? I mean, any old hardwall that's left there, you're going back over. You definitely need to give it a good coat of PVA before you put a skim on it, or before you put anything over the top of it. If you're going to put a bit more hardwall or bonding over it, then yeah, PVA every time, mate. Nice thick coat. Let it properly dry. As I say, I don't normally use put the stuff on the wall if the PVA is still tacky. I mean, you can do, and a lot of guys wait till it's a bit tacky and then put your plaster on. But you can get it sliding if you're not careful. If the PVA is not quite tacky enough, once it's gone completely off. As I say, it's not a problem at all. If I bonded the ceiling and I'm not going to skim it till the next day, I will give it a good old coat of PVA the next day before I hit the skim on it, and it all goes off nice and even, and the finish goes off the speed it should go off. If I'm skimming a bit of bonding or anything the same day, then I won't PVA out. I'll just bond it, and as soon as that's firm enough, I'll get the finish on it as well. Dixie, going rate for plasterers in London, at least £200 a day, South London. Obviously, you've got to be a half decent plasterer to be charging that kind of money. People expect to see results for the money that they're paying you. The more you can bash out, obviously, you have to work it out. If I bashed out what I could bash out in a day in a room, I'd have to charge more than that, because I'm not going to do a whole room for someone for 200 quid. Yeah, if something's prepped, I can bash out all the walls and the ceiling in a day. But so obviously you have to price that accordingly. But if you're going by a rough day rate, you're looking at 200 quid upwards. Can go up to 350 in London, South London. Depends who you're working for, and yeah, if you're working for a builder, it depends how tight they are. I think it's best to skim over the joints of the plasterboard first before continuing to skim the rest. Now, Eddie, when you used to put scrim on joints on plasterboard, it used to be a Hessian scrim, so it was really thick, like sacking basically. You'd put plaster on the joints, you'd stick that on the Hessian scrim, then you'd put some more plaster over the top of that, so get all the joints done first, and then you'd probably knock up a fresh mix to skim a wall. But now you've got self-adhesive fiberglass tape. You whack that on, and then on all your joints, and then just go straight over the whole lot. Skimming the over the joints first is probably, well, obviously takes you longer, and yeah, not a lot of point in it. If you could get away with, or you know how to plaster fairly well, then yeah, because you're sticking the tape on self-adhesive anyway, you're not, you shouldn't have any issues with it. Stick it on, then just put your couple of coats on the wall, get going. Yeah, I would strongly suggest you don't bother plastering the joints first and then going back over the whole thing. Hope that helps, Eddie. What else, guys? Got anything else you're interested in, you want to know? Throw it at me. I used to travel further for work in the past. I mean, when I worked for building companies, I liked to work up in town and stuff like that. And so I've worked at Pentonville Prison, plastering, but that was back in the 80s. I don't mind going to a fair distance if it's onto like the A3 or somewhere and I'm going out into the sticks, because generally you get less traffic. If you're going into town or into London, then I tend to keep it as near as possible, because the traffic in London is an absolute joke. If you leave early enough to get to a job in the middle of London somewhere at 8, you still get caught in a ton of traffic coming home. It's an absolute pain. So I try to stick as local as I can, preferably in my neighbourhood or somewhere within, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles, I suppose. But I'm like in the Sutton area, but I'll work in Epsom, Tooting, Balham, that's probably about as far as I like to go when it comes to going into town from where I am. But I've got no problems going to probably not Dorking, but like Leatherhead, places like that. I will go out and work in. But that's quite nice. But it's it's just a nicer trip in town. I want to stay as close as possible. Cheers, Eddie. That's helped out. Can use bonding over Artex sealing, then skim it as normal. Yes, mate. One of my videos is literally just bonding and skimming over an Artex sealing. Everything that was on the last time I did a live stream. It was one of the little videos on me on the side there, but I took that one down. But yeah, that's if it's normal kind of Artex, I don't tend to scrape any of it off anymore because of the possible risk of there being, I don't know how much asbestos in it. No, it's only a small amount, but I used to scrape off all the high spots. If there's a few little bits, I might just knock them off if they're really sticking out, but I won't go scraping at a ceiling. But if the icicles, the Artex stipple is really big, I suggest to the client that they overboard the ceiling. Which yes is more expensive, but in some cases if it's really bad, that's what you can do. But 9 times out of 10, you can get a decent coat of bonding over it, and then PVA, PVA the ceiling, nice coat of neat PVA, bond it. If you're skimming it the same day, skim it straight away without putting anything else on it. If you're skimming it the next day, put a good coat again of PVA on it. And let that dry before you put the skim on, so you don't get any issues where it's drying out too quick. Ian, Hawk or Handball? I've ever only used a Hawk, Ian, so I've never tried using just a Handball. So I don't know if that would be better or worse, but yeah, I'll just stick to the old traditional. Sorry, Dixie, what you put there? Do you know any doctors called Gary, Purdy, and Frank? Oh, decorators you meant, mate, didn't you? Sorry. Not off the top of my head, but it doesn't mean I haven't met them somewhere on a job, right? Do you put a lot of pressure on your Ultraflex? Because when I use it, it's left lines. I've gone back using the Marshalltown. Yeah, you might be using it a little bit too soon, Dave, on that. And maybe pushing a bit too hard. Only if I'm going to use, if you're going to get some issues, I would do the same. If I found I was having a bit of an issue with it, with my flexi trowel causing issues, then I would go back to the Marshalltown, give it another bit of a trowel with that first until it's gone off a bit more, and then go back to the flexi trowel. Because yeah, if you use it too soon, as great as it seems to look when you first start, you do start to you can get dips in it and you can start digging grooves in it. It's just it means that the plaster's still a bit too wet. Yeah, sorry Dixie, those decorators, I don't know, I might have met them, but I don't know them, unless you did mean doctors. John, I've got a large angled ceiling to plaster. How can I make sure I get an absolute straight line on the angle? With that, John, the only way you can get anywhere near that is to pull a string line across that angle from one end of the room to the other, nice and tight up into the angle. And what I would then do is, depending on how out that angle is, if it's a real rough plasterable job that they've done, then I will use bonding on either side of the angle and take it so either side touches the string line, and that's the nearest you're going to get to getting a nice straight edge through there. You could mess about with some kind of really thin bead in the centre, but that's more of a pain than it's worth. Or your best bet is to convince the customer to have a curve instead, because they're a lot easier to do, and because they hide any kind of like fluctuation. Whereas if you've got a really sharp straight angle, you do need to it's got to be spot on, otherwise you stand down one end of the room and you can see a wonk in it and nothing looks worse, but a curve you won't get that issue. Talk them into having a curve or use the string line and work to that, make sure it's nice and tight. but you can still, even then, it can still give you issues. So you've got to be really careful with that one. Mike, thank you. First time viewing YouTube channel after this. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Yeah, have a look on there. Any comments if you want to get back to me on anything that's in any of the videos, just do that. Ian, internal sand and cement or browning? God, I've used any browning for ages. Browning, when you put a finish coat on top of browning, it's absolutely beautiful. Goes smooth as silk compared to if you did it on bonding. Don't know why. It must be something to do with the makeup of it. But I would have used browning or bonding because I hate using sand and cement. Not because it's horrible or anything. It's just heavy and just taking so long to go off properly. And if you're not careful, you overdo something. Sand and cement can be prone to cracking if you're using it internally. You need to make sure it's dry enough before you put a skim on it, because if you skim sand and cement indoors on the same day, because the suction's made the cement dry, and you think, oh, I can put a skim on that now, you've got a good chance of getting some nasty looking cracks in it. So the customer will be straight back to you. Sometimes those cracks are only fine and they don't mess up the strength. You could bash it with a hammer and it still wouldn't fall off, but obviously the cracks look terrible and the customer thinks, well, there's something not right here because of all the cracking. So I would tend to have gone for browning, or obviously bonding if it's not a surface like bricks or something that you can use browning on. When you're skimming out a room, how do you put your angle? How are you putting your angle beads? Lately, I mean, I normally would stick my angle beads on in the finish or with bonding to get decent angles. So I'm using less finish on it. Very recently, and I use it a lot now, I use the mitre glue, which you basically put the glue on the angle bead, spray the angle on the wall with the accelerator spray that makes the glue go off within about 5 to 10 seconds. Push the bead on, count to 5, let it go, and it's stuck. And that is a really quick way of beading a room. So I poo-pooed the idea when I first heard about it, but because the stuff's a bit smelly, but it's not that smelly that I wouldn't use it. And yeah, speeds the jobs up no end at the end of the day. But traditionally, stick them on with. You can screw them on in some instances, but if you screw them on a bit wonky, any angle beads, then you can't kind of change them. Whereas if they're stuck into plaster, you can tap them left a bit, right a bit, and level them up a lot easier. I hope that helps. Have you ever thought of looking for an investor hiring a warehouse and setting up an intensive training? I don't know, there seems to be quite a lot of these intensive training, become a plasterer on a 2-week course thing. Okay, some of them are probably longer than that, but I don't know, I've never fancied the idea. But because it's an investment and it's risky, and I'm so risk averse, mate, you won't believe it. Yeah, I might have done a lot better for myself if I hadn't been. I don't know about buying property now. I mean, I was working back in the early 80s before the property boom started to kick in, and I should have realised, because one house you was doing up might have been in Streatham, a big terraced house, and the guy goes, God, I bought it for 30,000, and they bought it 6 months ago, and now it's they're gone up to 45. And it sounds crazy now. You think the price of houses, and I think, yeah. But so, you should buy a property. But there've been a couple of little crashes since then. But the property market's always gone back up again. Bricks and mortar is always a good investment, but yeah, I'm risk averse. Bottom line, but yeah, something I might look into, see how much hiring these places are, like the space, whether to do a proper course or not. So cheers for that, mate. Yeah, might be an idea. Oh, Dixie, yeah, out the bucket, mate. I've worked out the bucket for I don't know how long. I mean, I take a spot board with me, because when I'm using my stilts to do a ceiling, I put the spot board on a bucket, bucket on a spot board. So that's up high enough. But yeah, because I tend to work mostly on my own as well. I don't want to be like emptying it out onto a board, then having to wash out the bucket and then start to do the spreading. If you've got a labourer, then yeah, use a spot board. But again, a lot of rooms you're working in, you ain't got room to put a spot board up, or you can, but it really restricts your movement. If you're working out of a bucket on the floor, just whip it when you're doing the walls, especially. Just whip it out and off you go. Which I think in all these videos, apart from when I'm doing the ceiling, that's what I'm doing, straight out of the bucket. Oh dear. How are we doing on time? Okay, cool. Yeah, anything else, guys? Worst job and hardest customer. Worst job, I worked for a guy. He was a lovely guy, but he was a self-confessed perfectionist, and yeah, nothing I did was quite right. Even an angle that he thought looked a bit wonky, which I'd levelled out with a spirit level, and he went, "That's wonky." I said, "Well, not according to my spirit level, it isn't." And he put a spirit level on it as well, and it wasn't wonky. And he went, "Oh, well, me and the spirit leveler just have to agree to disagree." So, some perfectionists, mate, there's no pleasing. So he sticks in my mind for that reason. So it was probably him. Generally, most people are okay. I've had a guy before. First, his missus. I was doing a job for her. She was gabbering away to me, made herself a cup of tea while she was chatting, didn't offer me one, slagging off her husband, and then she went out, he came in with a crate of beer. He started slagging his missus off, and then I mean, I wouldn't drink beer on the job anyway. He sat there and watched his way through this crate of beer, didn't offer me a beer, didn't even offer me another cup of tea, or a cup of tea. That was a weird job, but yeah, it takes all sorts, mate. But generally people are great. Right, Dwayne, what's your method with the speed skim? Dwayne, with the speed skim, I whack my first coat on. Say if I'm doing more than one wall, I'll get that wall on, or even if I'm just doing one wall, and as soon as I've got that coat on, I'll hit it straight away with the plastic speed skim to level it off, and then I'll hit the next bit of wall, because I know at least if that first wall's starting to go off, when I go back to it, it's mostly flat, which before the use of the speed skim that wouldn't be the case. So you'd be a bit more wary about how much gear you put on, because you've got to get back to it and get round all of them, making sure they're nice and flat within the time you've got before that gear goes off, which obviously in the summer's like a rocket sometimes. But yeah, then I roll that off with that, and then oftentimes when it comes to, once I've done the second coat, when I first put water on the second coat, once it's hard enough, I will hit that with a metal blade speed skim, because that can basically like a big giant trowel basically, and you can really give it a good old trowel up, down and across, and you can get a beautiful flat finish doing that, and then just finish it off at the end with a flexible trowel, whichever brand you use. I mean, people have got preferences, but at the end of the day, it's a decent flexible trowel, and it lasts and it does a good job, whatever you're most comfortable with and that you like using. Yeah, not according to spirit level, Dixie. Can you believe it? That's when I knew I was fighting a losing battle, mate. Oh dear. Yeah, it's about doing a decent job in any person's house, not wrecking their carpet or anywhere, not damaging some other decor when you're bringing your tools in and out. I mean, you've got to be careful. It's so easy. You can walk in someone's house with a long bead that's not in the box still, and hit the wallpaper in the hall and scrape it, and yeah, that's not a good thing to do, and they're not going to be happy. You just have to be really careful and polite, and people just pleased that you turn up nowadays. So many guys don't turn up to jobs, even ones that they've already like pre-planned to do. Or if there's any reason they can't make it, even if it's to do a quote, they should like give the customer even a text at least and say, look, I can't get there for one reason or another. But yeah, a lot of people, customers I've spoken to, say, oh look mate, if you turn up to look at a job and you price it for me and you come back and do it, that's all I want. Because so many guys don't, and you kind of think, well, I don't quite understand it. Right, hang on. How do you advise? I'm on Checker Trade and do flyers. Flyers seem to be most successful and value for money. I did flyers years ago, but I think plastering work was really tight at the time, so they did me no good whatsoever. And I think I was telling people I'd do a whole room for them, including the ceiling, for about 250 quid, regardless. Didn't get a lot of work from them. I am on this last year. I went on Trust the Trader. Thought I'd give them a try, but getting some work from them. But grand up front, I don't know if I want to do that. And they've only extended, because of the COVID, they've given an extension on the contract for about 2 months, which I think's not enough. But we'll see how that goes. It varies. Some guys will swear. I mean, most of my work used to be from word of mouth, but even like I say, 35 years I've been doing this game. Years really vary. Sometimes I'm working right up to Christmas Eve. Other times, I'm off for a good while before Christmas. Sometimes in the summer, as you would expect, and in the springtime you think, oh yeah, I'm absolutely, work's piling in. And there's been times in the past where at that same point in the year, that there's a dodo twiddling my thumbs. You think, what's happening? Why ain't people got my number? What's happening to the referrals or whatever else? And yeah, it can be really unpredictable. 9 times out of 10, obviously it's okay, otherwise I wouldn't have been doing it for this long. But yeah, word of mouth is the best. If you leave your customers happy, mate, they go, tell me if my friends need a plasterer, I'll let them know about it. I'll give them your number. But what I wouldn't recommend, which I have done in the past when things have got really tight, was like not trust the trader, rated people. But then you're paying for leads for a job, and you're paying 3 guys paying for the same lead, and only one of you are going to get it, and yeah, that's not right. So yeah, I stopped doing that a long time ago. Eddie, do you move customers' radiators, or do you tell them to get a plumber or to remove it, or do you charge a bit more? I used to take, years ago, Eddie, I used to take radiators off of people. One time I took a rad off, it was absolutely fine, there was no water coming out of it, but that evening, for whatever reason, something to do with valves opening and shutting automatically, it leaked and it poured all over a wooden floor, which had to all be soaked up. If the floor was okay, if it hadn't have been, that would have cost me dearly. I'm sure my insurance company would have gone, no, that's not covered, mate. No, well, you shouldn't have took the radiator off because you're not a plumber. So I tend to tell people, I say, oh, do you want to? I can go around the edge of that rad, or you can get it taken off. I said in the past I would have taken it off for you, but if there's a problem, then it's my fault and it's down to me. And I'm a plasterer and I don't want that. I don't want you ringing me up to tell me you got a flood in your house when I was trying to do you a favour by taking it off for you. So I'd leave it alone, mate. Even if you charge a bit extra, if there is an issue with a leak somewhere, it's not worth them. It's not worth that bit of extra money that you're probably charging them. Most of the time, you should going around a loose switch. Sometimes can be an absolute pain. Ideally, and if you can, ask the customer if they can take them right off, tape up the wires and poke them in the wall, so you're just going around a square hole. Because when you do have to start going around switches, I mean, people don't want you to plaster around a switch, obviously, which isn't really a good job. I mean, you can do it if it's really tight, but you should loosen it off. But again, going around a loosened off socket, if it's a light switch, that's not really a problem. But if it's a socket near the floor, that little bit you're trying to hold the socket up, especially if the power's still on, 9 times out of 10 you want it on because you need some light from somewhere, and you're trying to plaster under it, and it's just dangerous. But if they can take those completely off and tape up the wires, I'd always request that from a customer if they want a really nice job around all their switches, that they take them off and put them back on after the plastering's been done, rather than just loosen them and leave them hanging, dangling there. So you use plastic rolls on floor as protection. I use all Cortex, but it's costly and messy to get it out. Is a thick plastic flooring roll normal? off the shelf. Yes, mate. The plastic roll I've been using, B&Q used to do it. It's a clear one, but then they've stopped it. I get it at my local builders merchants, Melvin Clark. He sells everything. It's between 17 and 20 quid a roll, but it's like 100 square metres, and it's a decent thickness as well that it covers. If I'm covering anybody's carpet, I'm absolutely confident of it. If I'm covering a hard floor, depending on whether it's just old floorboards that's got to get a new carpet on it, or if someone's had a brand new oak floor put down before they've had the plastering done, which is a pain, but it happens. They will put down the black ribbed floor tough spot protector, and then put plastic over or under that as well, and just get a really good cover on the floor. If someone's got an expensive floor, you don't want to lose out by causing any damage to it. You've got to be so careful with stands and stuff that you put on it. But yeah, the thick plastic on a roll, I've used it for donkeys, and it takes a little while because I do it wall to wall, tape it all down. But at the end of the job, it's so quick just to pull it all up, and the carpet's there, it just looks spotless, mate, and the customers love it. Nothing customers like more than it even if you make a mess while you're in there doing it. It's that plastic on the top one there, and you leave it nice and clean, mate. They love it. I mean, they see that it's a massive part of the job, leaving it clean and looking good. I mean, when customers say, "Oh, can you leave the plastic down because we want to paint afterwards?" and I kind of go, "Yeah, not a problem." But I think, "No, but it looks a bit." It looks a bit shit because it's got plaster and stuff over it, so sometimes I'll go over it with a cloth and give it a wipe down just to make it a little better, even though normally I would pull it up. But yeah, that kind of quite thick plastic on a roll was brilliant. To use 2 bags for both coats. Yeah, if I'm knocking up 2 bags of finish, yeah, there's normally enough left in that on the area that I'm covering to liven it up with some water and hit a tight second coat over the top. I mean, that tight second coat is really, it's a flattening out coat as well, because you're putting it on tight anyway, which is why you use less on a second coat even if you mix up a fresh one, and you're just flattening down the first coat. And as I've said before, if you can, I mean, generally I do a 2 coat cover anyway because it's easier. But you can coat something with 1 decent coat of skim, and as long as you're doing it right and you get it flat, whether that's using your speed skim or whatever, and then troweling it up, if it's flat and smooth, although it might not be by the book, it ain't going nowhere. It's staying flat, it's staying smooth, and when you paint it, it looks great. The customer loves it. So you'll get, you always do get guys that sort of say, "Oh, what's the oh, you're not doing 2 coats, mate, that's not right, can't be having all that malarkey." And if you want to do like 2 every time, most times I do 2, but if I get stuck on something or it's starting to go off a bit too quick and I think, no, I need to go back and just like sort this out so it ends up flat, smooth, nothing's showing through it, and I will do that. Simple as that. It's like the on the ad for tonight that I put out, just so people know it's going to be the next day or whatever. Had 1 thumbs down on it, and I think, who was that? It would go, "What, ask a plasterer or something?" Oh no, that's a bad idea, mate. Dear. I'm thinking of buying stilts, but I'm worried if I have a fall and damage my hand. That's me out of work for a while. Alternative to stilts, pop some blanks. When I first, touch wood, mate, the years I've been using stilts, all you got to be careful of when you're using stilts, one, you do get the hang of them eventually. One, you don't really, mine are extendable. They go from the height they are, which is as low as they go, which will hit a standard height ceiling. They can be extended if the ceiling's starting to get a bit higher. I've found that I tend to not be that keen on making them higher. I don't mind making them a little bit higher, but they do go to almost twice the height that I normally use them on, which is dangerous, obviously. But if you get the hang of them on the normal height, it just feels like walking on the ground. You just get so used to it. All you have to be careful of is, which is another reason I use plastic, you can't chuck a dust sheet on the floor if you're using the stilts, because they've got like rubber feet on them, and they'll so easily drag and catch up all the the dust sheet, and you'll go for a Burton. In all the years I've used them, although I've kind of like whoa a little bit here and there, I have never fallen off them. So because yeah, that wouldn't be a good day. For sure, but hopefully if you did, you'd be near a wall, so you'd smack the wall first before you hit the actual deck with your wrists, because yeah, as you say, it would be quite a fair way to drop and hit anything. But it's a case of being careful and getting confident with stilts before you go take on too big a ceiling. And when I first bought a pair, I thought it was going to be a complete waste of time, because I put them on, I was walking along the wall, holding the wall up with my hands, sort of like, oh, how am I going to let go? And how am I going to let go and hold the hook and hold the trowel and lean backwards and whack the stuff on? But yeah, you learn to walk around the room with them first. The only time I got really confident with them was when I had to put them up high at one time, pretty high as well, and absolutely crap myself, because I thought I can't do this on these, I'm going to just have to do it off a tall ladder, which I think I probably reverted to. But then when I went back down to the normal height that they normally are, I felt like I was like on the floor. I kind of thought, oh, I feel happy on these now. It's like coming off a motorway. If after you've been doing 80 miles an hour and you go down to 30, you feel like you can get out and walk. It's like that. So yeah, stilts are great platforms, because back in the day, if you did the proper like platform to do a ceiling, it's fantastic, but it's a lot of gear. And if you did it a proper platform with no traps in it or gaps in it, fine. But 9 times out of 10, we wouldn't use enough scaffold boards, and you'd have big gaps, and you'd have to be looking up while you're troweling and down to make sure you're not about to step through a hole in the boards, which would really cause you some damage. And plus the time it takes to get boards in and out of a place, you've got more chance of causing damage to people's decor when you take any kind of scaffold of any sort into a domestic property. So from that point of view as well, the stilts, you whack them on, you do the ceiling, you take them off, and you're ready to hit the wall straight away. So it's a massive time saver. Doug, hello Doug. Customers love the sticky carpet protector, as when I pull it up, it pulls up. Yeah, pulls up the filth. I could do Pex carpet cleaner. Yeah, hunt down some of the thick stuff, mate. Yeah, the stuff you put on the stairs, I struggle to get it off the roll. When I do use that on steps, on carpet, yeah, I mean, I struggle with a bit of sellotape, mate. So when I'm trying to unroll that stuff off a whole roll to do some stairs, it takes me about half an hour to do one small set of stairs with that stuff. But you can't just put slippery plastic on the stairs. You've got to be really careful there. 9 times out of 10, I will use dust sheet on the stairs, but again, I'll probably tape it up on each side so it's as secure as you can get it, until the customer, if he's going to stay there for a night, you just got to be very careful when they're going up and down the stairs. But yeah, the thick stuff, mate, it's what you want on the rolls. It shouldn't cost you more than 20 quid, even with VAT, for a roll of the plastic. Again, when I'm looking for, I just ask for a roll of, say, like, mate, I'm looking for a roll of thick, clear plastic, but like quite a lot of meterage. You don't want that flimsy stuff that kind of blows away when you fart. Not on the carpet, because it just tears, it just doesn't do a good job. Because the amount of muck I've dropped before on this plastic, and I've been walking up and down on it with me stilts, but protects carpet absolutely fantastically. Hard floor, you can get little rips in it because there's no give underneath, like you get when there's a carpet under the plastic. But generally it keeps the floor clean, even if it is just floorboards. Dave, oh, hang on, sorry guys, I'll catch up. Do you like sponging the finish coat? I haven't sponged the finish coat since I was at college, LG. Again, you can say, oh yeah, it fills in all the little hollows and stuff, but if you're doing a decent job on a wall, you don't really need to use a sponge on it. And although it feels smooth to the touch, sometimes it looks awful because you can see all these kind of swirly marks in the plaster that have been, which you won't see when it's painted. But sometimes the customer might look at that and go, oh, should it look like that? Some person once, after I skimmed their Artex ceiling, asked me why it wasn't bumpy anymore. could I put the bumps on? And they went, well, you want me to Artex it again? Why have you just paid me to skim it? Sorry guys, right, Dave, do you buy new dust sheets for every job? Mostly, mate, yeah, because once you get plaster on a dust sheet, when you go into, I mean, if you're just using it in general for walking up and down somewhere where there's not going to be loads of plaster plopping on it, it's fine. But yeah, if I've got one on the stairwell and quite a lot of blobs and stuff get on it, when you go into the next customer's house, you'll probably make more of a mess putting a dust sheet down with bits in it on their new carpet. And if they've got a really lovely carpet or a dark carpet and you start sticking an old dust sheet on it that's got lumps of plaster on it, I mean, if you're a carpenter or something, it don't matter because you're just talking sawdust. But for our trade, mate, and paint as well, for a painter or a decorator, that's fine because that's dry, it's not really going to come off. But plaster on an old dust sheet, yes, I get new dust sheets. I mean, it's expensive to do that, and I only tend to use a dust sheet if I'm doing it on the stairwell to cover stairs because, let's say, the sticky stuff plastic that you can stick the self-adhesive onto the stairs, I struggle to get it off the roll, as I said earlier. And the ordinary plastic, it's too dangerous to put that on the stairs because it's too sliding. So yeah. Cheers, LG, I hope that helps. Thanks, Mike, appreciate that. I mean, ask a plasterer, Mike. I do this, well, the first one was last month, exactly, it was on the 4th of December, I think, and some of the guys said, I wasn't sure how well it was going to work or whether it was worth doing, or whether people are, depending on how many different people you might get that have got questions coming on. But yeah, if it stays fairly popular, then I'm going to do this. Currently the idea is to do one of these Ask the Plasterer once a month, on more or less exactly a month each time, but I'd advertise when it's going to be anyway, so and let people know via my channel. Yeah, cool. Yeah, look forward to seeing you again, Mike, at the next Ask the Plasterer, or any comments you want to put on any of my videos on my channel, mate. I'm always happy to answer. I haven't got that many subscribers that I can answer everybody that comments on any of the videos. Sometimes some of the comments disappear and you try to answer them and you can't find where they are, so I don't know what that's all about. Something to do with the technology on YouTube's end. But 9 times out of 10 I get notified by which comments I've got on what video, so I can answer them. So any questions you've got in any videos you see, just pop a comment in the comment box and I'll get back to you. Yes, Doug. So got to be really careful of that really thin plastic, mate. Especially you had a curry the night before. There's no good laying the plastic down. The customer goes, "Oh, that's lovely." They walk out, you fart, they come back in. They go, "Where's the plastic gone?" "Oh, it's up the wall." Yeah. Does sanding leave an acceptable finish? Yes, mate. If you have to sand plaster, as long as you're not having to sand it right back to the original wall, to the plasterboard, or through to a bit of fibre tape that starts showing through, then sanding is absolutely fine. Obviously it has to be completely dry finish to be able to sand it, and using a really pretty fine paper. You don't want to start using any really coarse stuff on it unless it's absolutely chronically bad, and then use some rough stuff and then go down to the fine stuff. But generally sanding finish is fine once it's properly dry, but only using the fine paper, and then when you paint that, it'll absolutely great. But obviously on the plastering jobs you wouldn't want to do a whole room and then have to sand the whole thing. But when you're practicing, if you're doing some work in your own place on a small area of wall, it doesn't quite turn out as nicely as you thought it would, then you can sand it down once it's properly dry and it should look fine. Or put a good coat of PVA over it and do it again. Good practice. So if it's in your own house, you don't really want to have to keep doing it in someone else's house. Yeah, cheers for that, Mike. Have you ever used blue grit to skim straight onto ceramic tile? Do you trust it? I've never used the blue grit to well, to tile out to plaster over anything, I have used PVA with grit or sand basically that I've put in it, and also fibre tape. You can use the thin stuff and use quite a lot of it, or you can buy thicker fiberglass tape. PVA the surface with the gritted PVA with the sand in it. Put before or after, doesn't matter, the fiberglass on top of that as well. If you want to, give it another coat of the PVA. Make sure the whole lot is properly dry, and then I would trust that as long as the tiles are well stuck on. But it's amazing. I mean, I've rendered years ago. I rendered one of those old porcelain butler sinks with sand and cement, and all I'd put on that was neat PVA, nothing in it, and then put a scratch coat of sand and cement on the porcelain sink, and then the second coat on after that. And to my knowledge, that never came off. But I wouldn't risk that in someone's house going over tiles. And 9 times out of 10, it might be easier to pull the tiles off, or for them to pull the tiles off, and the damage that it does cause, tie that all up with bonding first, which will take you less time probably than it would to do all that prep work on top of the tiles to make sure that the plaster wasn't going to come off. Peter, do you remove coving before doing the ceiling? No. Even if I'm bonding an Artex ceiling that's got coving, normally you can get the bonding tight enough when it comes to the top member of the coving, like the stuff I've got up here in my room, that it still leaves a member at the top even when you put bonding on and finish as well. If I'm needing to overboard a ceiling that's got coving there, if it's a proper fancy kind of like proper plaster cornice that's up there, but it's a smooth run one, then I'll use the finished plasterboard, which is more or less the thickness of that top member of a standard cornice or cove, and then once it's been skimmed, where the joint is, where the plasterboard goes flush with the top of the coving, I'd suggest this also to the customer before I did it. They'd run a wooden bead around over that joint, and it just kind of blends in as a slightly more fancy coving. But 9 times out of 10, I'm bonding and skimming over old Artex ceilings, and if the coving's there, it's fine to leave it. Obviously, you've got to be careful not to go too thick with your bonding right at that edge, because you can't afford to lose the member. But normally there's more than enough room there to do that and leave it up. So yeah, mate. Yep. What's the crack with the angle of the trowel when finishing skim? Some guys say open your trowel up to get a sharper cut, but others say close the trowel. Thoughts, please. What you mean when you're troweling up that finishing skim? Well, I always tend to go at more of an angle. I don't know if you can see it in any of my videos with my trowel when I'm troweling up, and yeah, I still keep it. It's something you kind of get used to. You get a kind of feeling for it, how much of an angle you can put it at. If you put it too much of an angle, so you're coming away too much, you could suddenly get a judder in your trowel, and obviously that makes judder marks in your plaster, which could be an absolute pain. You can kind of fill them in with some fat, but you don't want to have to do that. If you keep it tight, obviously if you keep it too tight, it'll slide along the finish too easily, and you're not getting it a nice a nice kind of finish on it. It's really difficult to explain, but that it just whatever feels and looks good to you as you're doing it, that's the angle you want to be at. It's difficult to say in degrees what degree of angle you have it at. As I say, for me, it just kind of comes with that. As for most plasterers, it just comes with the more you do it, you think, yep, you learn where it should be, and it's not something I think you can be quite told, oh, do it at this angle. Yeah, sure, mate. I hope that helps. Mike's, oh yeah, Lincoln, thank you. I was asked the other day to do a job using, using the grit, Lincoln, was that you from earlier? I mean, if people want you to use, I mean, the first time a customer said to me, we use blue grit or green grit, and I didn't know what she was talking about. This is a little while ago, and she said, another plasterer came and he said, you should put blue grit on it, and you haven't said use blue grit, so are you much of a plasterer? Cheeky beggar. I said, yeah, I think I've been doing it long enough, dear, that it doesn't need blue grit on it. And this was just a skim of wall. There was nothing special about it. It wasn't on tiles or anything like that. Mike, if the tiles are really well stuck on, and yeah, you prep. I mentioned a bit earlier. You prep it with. You can use these blue grit things, but I don't like paying for those. I used PVA, some sand in it, and fiberglass tape. A mixture of those on the surface first, and make sure the whole lot's really nice and dry before you try sticking any plaster on it. But it might be less work to just take the tiles off or have the customer take them off and just repairing what you need to with bonding and then skimming it, rather than go through the other rigmarole of what you've got to put on the tiles first to make sure it stays stuck. That's entirely up to you. Mind you, sometimes you're probably better off taking them off yourself, because some customers can get carried away and take half the wall off back to the bricks, which you don't want that either. Not if you've already priced just to put a little skim on it. Gandalf, hello mate. Is it true that carbon steel trowels are better than stainless steel counterparts? I don't know, to be honest with you, mate. I don't use carbon steel trowels to know whether there's anything better about them. At the end of the day, you've got to use what works and what you're happy with. I mean, you can buy a carbon steel trowel if you've used an ordinary steel or stainless steel trowel for years, and then you buy a carbon steel one, which if I went out tomorrow and said, I'm going to try the old carbon steel, give that a go, then I'd have I might go, this is rubbish, or what's the difference? Or I might go, this is fantastic. But it's down to preference. If you've never used much of any trowel before and you go, what should I buy as a good first trowel, then I wouldn't recommend going out and buying a carbon steel trowel. I'd say get yourself a Marshalltown. They're the kind of industry standard. I mean, there's lots of good trowels out there now, but that was the one back in the day that you can still buy now. They're well made. They're good quality trowel. For your laying on trowel, the flexible trowels, loads of different brands are really good. I use the Ultraflex. I can't remember. Is it getting late? I remember the name of the one I'm using now. Yeah, well, don't worry about it. So Gandalf, yeah, go for whatever you like, mate. At the end of the day, you might be able to do a lovely job with a carbon trowel, and if you're happy with it, then that's what you'd use, and you'd probably end up saying to people, the carbon trowel's much better than the old bog standard trowel. But I don't know. Alright guys, I'm probably going to give it about another 5 minutes or so, and then go and have a cup of coffee or something, because the missus will have a moan at me for making my live streams too long. She said it's going to be more than 45 minutes or something like that, because the last one was about an hour and a half. Well, we've done about an hour now, haven't we? So yeah, give it another 5 minutes or so guys, then I'll be wrapping up for this evening. But yeah, I'll probably give this another go in a month's time and see how we get on. See what's happening on the plastering Corona front, and how available gear is and all the rest of it. But yeah, actually I'll probably knock it on the head about now. So thanks for coming guys, thanks for asking your questions, and I'll see you in about a month's time on this one. And yeah, be careful out there. Hopefully they get enough of these vaccines out so we can get back to normal life, because everyone's fed up with this lockdown malarkey, and yeah. Anyway, I mean, because we'll get on really well with customers, I'll give them a hug when they leave. especially if they pay me straight away. Right, cheers guys, you take care. Oh, cheers Mike, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you next month, and as I say, have a look at the videos, and maybe it was you or the Prime Minister. Cheers Buzzer. Dear. Oh, right, okay guys, I'm signing out, but I shall see you again, and thanks for coming along. Oh, sorry Pete, when you skim a room, is there any order to the walls to do? If you just want to work against a hard angle, so you haven't got to mess about where two soft angles meet each other, depending on the room, then if you're doing a whole square room, then yeah, do the opposite walls first, and then once they've gone off, again, then do the opposite walls, so you've always got a hard angle to work up against to get a nice internal corner. Or if you do two wet ones, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? Together there, then you can yeah, use an angled trowel on that when you come into the putting water on it stage. Another lockdown looms. The hunt for multi-finish begins again. Yeah, you're not kidding, mate. You're not kidding. I can't be bothered. I've got a couple of bags left in the garage, but it's probably not going to be enough to do any decent job that's coming up. So just going to keep my fingers crossed that this don't get any worse. And yeah, because there's no way me or any other plasterer is going to use that make good stuff. Man. Doug, got to keep carbon steel clean, rust free. Oh yeah, okay mate, yeah. There you go, Gandalf. Right, I'm definitely going now guys, because yeah, I'm going to go and have a nice cup of coffee and relax and pretend there's no such thing as a lockdown, and dream of happier days gone by, which is what old geezers do. Dear. I talk about Zoom, I can't even remember how to turn this thing off sometimes. Oh, where's the stop button now? Okay, here we go. Right guys, I'll see you later. Thanks for coming along. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers Doug. Take care guys, all the best. See you later.